Earth Day is interesting because I remember Earth Day when I was a kid, they'd make a big deal about it and say, okay, everyone needs to do their part, cycle, think about their water usage, think about all kinds of things related to the environment, don't litter, stuff like that. And, certainly sustainability is an important part of the modern food and beverage industry. It seems to be incumbent upon brands to have some sort of sustainability component in their business strategy. And it's mentioned that, millennials in particular are asking a lot out of brands. They're asking for brands to have recyclable packaging or some sort of commitment to environmental responsibility. Well, I thought because we have two millennials here on the show, I would ask you guys how important it is to you when you're making purchasing decisions. Do you look for seals like 1% for the planet? Do you look for callouts like regenerative agriculture when you're making these purchasing decisions?
I guess I'll take that first. I think from a packaging perspective, I think that's something that I really look for, especially these days. My friends and I, we're really focused on reducing just plastic use. So looking at packaging that's compostable, that's recyclable is something that kind of draws my eye to it from the beginning, and is kind of how I differentiate between different brands and if they care, because I think that's a big piece of sustainability and helping the environment. Then from there, I would say I'm a typical millennial and I am looking beyond just a label. So beyond just calling it sustainable or beyond calling it just organic, it's like, what are they doing that's actionable? So what are they doing that's part of their story that is showing how they are helping the planet? So I know there's a bunch of brands that are focused on food waste and they're focused on upcycling. On this episode, Barnana is a great brand that is really focused on upcycling. Other brands are like ReGrained. I know Forager and their chips are using pulp from their juices. Uglies uses ugly potato chips. There's even produce delivery service, Imperfect Produce. So I think there's a bunch of different brands that are doing that. And that's a cause that I'm drawn to, and looking at brands that are showing how they're actually helping with that problem is something that I focus on.
Brad, are you just as passionate as Jackie is about sustainability?
I definitely try to, choose a sustainable option when it's there. But I think it's a lot harder than it sometimes gets made out to be, especially when you're depending on the situation where, what type of store you're shopping in, what's available to you as a consumer. In general, I will try to go for the can or the paper packaged product that's much more recyclable. I mean, there's definitely studies that have kind of showed that most plastic really isn't that recyclable. Even sort of sustainable packaging, it's tough to maintain when it comes to plastic. One of the big things is that the change for sustainability really, does need to come from the top down, from the companies. I mean, it really is, I think, on brands to be the ones that are making the change here. I think you can give the consumer the option, but a lot of the times those come with premium price points. Sometimes those come in limited distribution because it's just the nature of building a brand. So I think when you're talking about it, you need to look at like PepsiCo has done a lot to try and, move itself towards sustainability and, emphasize that. And I think you need to see that from the industry when you talk about that, because yes, my generation very much cares about, the environment and making these decisions, but I feel like there's only so much you can do as a consumer in order to really do that. And I think we need the leadership to come from Coca-Cola and from PepsiCo and from KDP and all the big companies that are the ones that are putting out the most product that the most people buy.
But doesn't that go back to the question of, or the statement that we often hear about how consumers vote with their wallet? If they do decide to, or if consumers do decide to make decisions to reduce plastic, to buy products that are made with sustainable packaging, and enough consumers do that, don't you think then the companies will, or the large conglomerates will take notice and take the kind of action that you're talking about, Brad?
I think it's definitely happening slowly, for sure. I think it's, certainly happening. And I think there's a general, knowledge that, this needs to happen. I do think it's interesting when we see a lot of investment going into brands like, say, PathWater, that's emphasizing reusable aluminum bottles for their packaging and encouraging their consumers to reuse the bottles and, only make occasional purchases versus, everyday purchases. I mean, it's a brave business model to do that and to really focus on that. I think the average consumer does want to do more have a more sustainable option, but either they're constrained by price point or they're constrained by availability. And so when you're in the major coastal markets, it's easy. If you're in California, it's pretty easy to make that sustainable option. If you're in the Midwest, it's pretty hard.
Brad, you made an interesting point about price points, and you've said it a couple of times. We're not rich. We do, I hear what you're saying. It's important to consider price when you are thinking about a product that has more sustainable packaging, that has an environmental benefit, or that has a sustainability initiative, or is focused on a particular sustainability initiative. That might be priced at a premium, and you have to weigh those decisions. I mean, I guess in general, Jackie, Brad, are you willing to consistently pay, say, a 10 to 25% premium for brands and products that are, quote unquote, doing the right thing when it comes to the environment?
That's a great question. And I think that is a battle every consumer has internally. And I think I will lean more towards the ones that are a little bit pricier. I think it also depends on the category. If it's something that, for example, seafood, that I'm really focused on the sourcing, then I will pay, a little bit more, or I'll focus more on their practices. Where something maybe like produce, I know I wouldn't pay as much, like that much more for produce. So I think it really depends on the category. I think this is just a big concern as far as just how accessible these products are. And it's kind of like a balancing act between, can people vote with their wallets when it is a premium product? So it's like the price point has to come down, and then people have to be buying these products, and it's kind of like a balancing act.